This is a continuation of the Warski live stream discussion that I had last night, and that is the question of white nationalism and the debate between Sargon of Akkad and Richard Spencer and all the rest of them that were there. And I'd like to touch on a few points. I don't think anyone in the live stream really expanded on their ideas at all. I think that everyone was very nondescript and pedantic, as I said before, and I'd like to throw in my 2 cents because I think it's important. First of all, I'd like to say that Richard Spencer and Millennial Woes and a lot of the people who are in the pro-European identity movements are incorrect about their discussions on white identity, quote unquote, because I think the term whiteness and the term white as a descriptor of people of European descent is a neo-Marxist term. In the past, of course, we see that people have referred to European people as white, and that's all well and good, but we need to focus on what the terms mean today in our society. And when someone starts talking about whiteness, quote unquote, I generally think of them as a Marxist or a radical leftist of some kind. And I get that sense from Richard Spencer. I think that when he says white ethno-state or what it means to be white, it's crap. It's nondescript and it doesn't make any sense logically. So when you talk about whiteness and European identity, you have to keep in mind that Europe is not one monolithic culture. It's not one monolithic group. There are specific genetic clusters in Europe in and of itself, very distinct cultural elements as well that come out of these genetic clusters, but not everyone in Europe agrees, and they brought up the point of infighting and differences within the community, and I think that Richard Spencer gets this point completely wrong. I mean, what do you do about infighting in the white ethno-state? Well, you can't really do anything if it's one monolithic country or nation state or something like that. The big difference is between the groups that exist within Europe. For example, the difference in opinion and culture and religion between Britain and Romania it's very distinct. They're not the same. In fact, they have distinct characteristics as a group of people. When you look at someone on average that's from Romania or from Eastern Europe and you compare them to someone from Western Europe, you can tell distinctly between those two groups. It's very apparent. So to say that there is one group of people and they're called white and they're all generally the same is incorrect. If you compare even French people and Germans, they're very distinct. If you look close enough, if you understand the two groups of people, they're very distinct. And as you get towards the Alsace-Lorraine, it becomes a little bit more blurred, but you can still distinctly tell, oh, this person is French and this person is German, or that person is from Belgium, or this person is Swiss, or whatever it is. You can still tell. So to say that there needs to exist a single white ethno-state is incorrect. There is no single white identity. I think it's more productive to say, I am Swedish, or I am Norwegian, or I am German, and I want to be with other Germans. And that's still a pro-European identity movement. It's just not so nondescript and frankly idiotic. I mean, you can't smash all of Europe together into one nation state. It's not going to work. Each group of people is very distinct. Slavs have historically not gotten along very well with Western Europe. And to say that someone of Slavic descent is the exact same as a Spaniard is incorrect. To say that these people are both white, or to say that neither of them are white or anything like that is completely ridiculous. And this whole discussion on, oh, well, Italians aren't white, or Greeks aren't white, and Slavs aren't white, and the Irish aren't white, well, that's completely irrelevant. Each of those groups still plays a distinct part in the history and culture of Europe as a whole, which is what the identity movement, I think, is trying to protect. It's certainly what I'm trying to protect. I want to preserve the unique histories and cultures of Europe, and that includes the Spanish, that includes the Greek, the Slavs, the Irish, people who may or may not be considered quote-unquote white by some people in the movement. It doesn't matter. They're all there. They all have a unique part to play in the real diversity of Europe, so to speak. To say that the Greeks are somehow not European or non-white, whatever you want to call it, is ridiculous. I mean, the whole reason that we had a Renaissance in Europe that leads to where we are today is because of Greek and Roman philosophers. To say that Italians and Greeks don't have an important part to play in European history is absolutely ridiculous. To say that somehow the Irish, the Gaelic cultures, are somehow separate from Europe is ridiculous as well. The distinction between Slavs and Western Europeans, it's ridiculous. They have been intertwined in the history of Europe since the beginning. Whether or not Finnish people have a little bit more Asian admixture, or Eastern Slavs have a little bit more Asian admixture, I think is irrelevant. They're all a part of this woven blanket that is Europe. This very unique and distinct culture that is Europe, and that's what I'm trying to protect. I want Greek people to remain in Greece. I want the Spanish to remain in Spain. I want the French to remain in France. I want the Germans to remain in Germany. I want each and every group to not have to continually fight this moralistic argument of, why do I have to continue to justify the existence of my people? Why are we allowing foreigners to dominate us and run our government? Why are we not being allowed to rule ourselves? Is it acceptable that we have to continually justify the existence of our group of people? This is ridiculous, and it's only used against people of European descent. It's never used against Africans. It's never used against the Chinese or the Japanese or Latin American, even though they're technically descendants of Europe as well. And it's not just my thoughts in particular, my own personal opinion is it's not just about European identity. It's about the identity of human culture as a whole. I want every group of people that have their own culture to have a place to exist, because I think they have a right to, as sentient creatures. Just as a principle, we don't have a right to go around and say, okay, well, this tribe can't exist and this group of people can't exist. Let them exist where they are. Let us flower where we're planted. You know, the Europeans have Europe. They're genetically designed to live and prosper in Europe. They deserve to stay there, and no one else has a claim to that land except for the native population. And things are going to get a bit blurred, and specific examples we might have to have a larger discussion, but that's fine. I think this concept of whiteness is incorrect. It's a neo-Marxist term. We need to get away from that, and people like Richard Spencer and Millennial Woes need to really sit down and think about this concept and what they're doing. To think of white people as a monolithic culture is exactly what the radical left is doing, is exactly what the anti-European movements are doing. They're putting us all in a box and putting us all together as one monolithic culture. And for the pro-European identity people to do that, I think is disingenuous and wrong. The next thing that they really got hung up on, and that Spencer should have been tested more by Sargon and Styx, is about the ethics of the state. And I'll reserve my extremely libertarian opinions on this a little bit, but generally I think that Spencer is susceptible to the power of a tyrannical state, and I don't think that's a good thing. This is a discussion that we need to have in the pro-identity movements, is how moral, or can we justify the usage of a powerful state to protect our identities? Is that acceptable? And I don't think it is, but like I said, that's a bigger discussion to be had in the future. Really what we need to do is continue to have the discussion of, what are our principles? Can we force people to do this? Can we force people to do that? Is the state morally justifiable? That would be an interesting discussion to have with someone like Richard Spencer and Millennial Woes, the libertarian discussion of what is the state and can we use it? And I think first, if we understand the differences between the ethnic groups within Europe, then we can go on to discuss the specific principles of the state, and let the Romanians have their country, and then let them run it how they wish, so long as they're not hurting the rest of us. I think that's all about all I have to say for now. There's a lot more that can be unpacked. It was almost, I think it was 4 hours and 30-minute debate, about 4 hours, somewhere around there. There's a lot to unpack. I found someone by the name of Mercury39 on YouTube here who is doing a specific breakdown of clips, and I wish I had the time to do that, but I just don't right now. Go and check that out and see some specific examples of what they talked about and a third opinion to that debate. So thanks for watching.